Hello, this is another Green Dragons Gaming Club. Without us, they never feel like winners. Without them, we couldn't look so good. This is another pretty boy bat rep, and it's game one of Brawler's Bash. My orcs and goblins are going up against an Ogre Khan's army. I got word that round one pairings were up. I looked and I see them playing Shannon Powell, round one. For those of you who don't know, Shannon Powell is arguably one of the best players in his region, um, and probably one of the better Ogre Cons players in the United States at the moment. I've never had the chance to play him, but he won best overall at Grail Thrones by a mile, and he's won the past couple of tournaments. Very talented player. I'm very much looking forward to playing him. I think it'll definitely be a nice challenge, and we'll see how my greenskins do. This is my list. It hasn't changed from the last couple of games, so feel free to pause and take a look at it. Otherwise, here we go. So it's game one, classic deployment. I'll go over his list really quickly. He's got two giants on the left. One of them is very familiar looking because it is Once Bitten's model he's borrowing. Then he's got a unit of 6 Merc Vets, kitted out a little bit differently. They have Halberds, Thunderous Charge, Swift Stride, and then they have the Ether Icon. He's got a Frost Mammoth behind them, a unit of 6 Bombardiers. He's got a unit of 3 Chaffing Tribesmen. No upgrades, not even Iron Fists. They just have paired weapons. And then towards the center, he has a big old brick of 12 bruisers with his general in it. He has one character running the Hellfist, and he's got that item on him where if you're above Strength 5, you go down to Strength 5, so he's very tough to kill. Those 3 monster-looking things that are carrying giant boulders on their backs, those are actually Scratapults. So he has 3 Scratapults in this game. That is different, and I was very thankful that my list was not more infantry heavy than it already was, because those things are scary, I'm not going to lie. He's got another unit of 3 Tribesmen, Chaffing Tribesmen, then he's got a unit of 4 Tusker Cav with the Dragon Skin Banner, and all the way on his left flank, he's got another unit of Chaffing Tribesmen. So he places everything down first, and I deploy in reaction. He wants first turn. And for his card, he chose the mission where he wants to try and kill my general to get an extra 1,000 victory points. For me, I have my Wolf Chariots on the left. I've got my Orcs with Crossbows on the hill. Got Cave Trolls. I have my general behind them. My Catapult. Then I have my Feral Orcs front and center with my BSB behind. And I put Pac-Man ahead of them because he's maneuverable. He'll stop them from frenzy charging when I don't want them to. And he's easy to get out of the way. I then put my Goblins next to my Feral Orcs with Twitch. Got a Git Launcher, Scrap Wagon, 2 National Wrecking Teams, another Git Launcher. And then overloading on the flank, I've got a Giant and my Gargantual Spider. And my Grotling Scout in the Ruins. So this is an overview of deployment. So I chose the mission, since this was a tough matchup, I just chose the one where I get 1,000 victory points if I flee with a unit. I figured that was the easiest one. My whole game plan is to try to keep my center out of combat if I can, as long as possible, unless an opportunity arises where it's very favorable to me. I want to shoot him, I want to hit him with my magic, and I want to win on the flanks. With my chariots and then with my monsters on the other side and kind of converge towards the middle. My Grotlings plan to chaff up the Tusker Cav because he's going to be bottlenecked by that impassable terrain, and those tribesmen are not going to be able to handle my monsters on their own. And then if he clears the chaff, I'm going to throw my wrecking teams into the Tusker Cav, and my monsters will start to work on his units in the center. So he takes first turn and he moves everything up. Not surprising there. So that's how it's looking. Moving his stuff around the building. And then I think this is the end of movement. He doesn't have any magic. We go into shooting. Only one of his catapults hits, thankfully, and I lose 5 orcs there. And then it's Orcs and Goblins turn 1. Uh, I needed a 10 to get this charge off, and there was no reason not to do it, because if I failed, he had no counter charges against them. Nothing could see the chariots, so called it out, and I made it. 10 on Swift Stride is not unreasonable. I'm happy with that, and if I can't kill the giant, I'll at least hold it up. And then my movement kind of looks like this. So the orcs defend their hill, the cave trolls just shift a little bit, my feral orcs shift a little bit, my characters move to get into position. The goblins move up just enough so that my wizard can start throwing off pyromancy. I move the Gnasher Wrecking Teams up, and the Grotlings go up and chaff up the Tusker Cav, which is perfect. So now my spider or my giant can come around the flank, and I don't care if his tribesmen charge me. I will kill them outright. So that'll put a little pressure on his units in the middle. And the only thing that I'm questioning now is that I move Pac-Man in the center where you see him. I don't think I need to do this because that's basically using him as an expensive piece of charge bait. He'll charge him, and then my hope is I'll be able to countercharge his bruisers. But I think I could have kept him back one more turn. He didn't really have any charges that he could have done just yet. I think I put him there because I didn't know where else to put him. And if I am going to leave him there, I should have shifted the feral orcs a little bit more, but that's how I left it. So that's how that flank looks. Looking pretty good. And we get into magic. I think I might get off a Scorching Salvo, and I kill one of his tribesmen and do a couple wounds to a chariot. And with shooting, I decide I'm going to concentrate firepower on this Merkvet unit. They're only a 5-up armor save, so I kill one with, I think, artillery, and then my crossbows open up and kill another one. So a third of the unit's gone already. That's fantastic. And we go into combat, and I roll high. I roll 11 impact hits. I'm getting +2, so it's 13, and I kill the big guy outright before he even gets to swing. I couldn't have asked for anything better because now those chariots are in the flank of his lines, and they're very fast. And again, that's just putting a little more pressure on his center, getting things to move up. And yeah, hopefully I can get some flank charges. So in his turn, he does a smart play here. He just sends his chaffing tribesmen, the remaining 2, into my scrap wagon. He declares that charge has to go through the Gnasher Wrecking Team, and they suicide bomb it. Meanwhile, his other tribesmen decide they can't take the giant on or the spider, so they go into clear chaff. Not a bad use for them at all. And then the center, yeah, he double charges it. I should have been able to see this, but oh well. So Pac-Man's not going to be able to withstand that. Then he goes into shooting, and again, I'm very thankful only one of the Scratapults hit, and I think this is actually on the second attempt to hit, so it was at a lower strength. Still killed about 6 of these guys, so that's a third of the unit from those Scratapults. Then we go into combat, and shockingly, my Grotlings die, and Pac-Man dies. So the tribesmen restrain their pursuit, or restrain overrunning, I should say. The bruisers do overrun. They only overrun like 4 or 5 inches. So now my feral orcs can easily charge the tribesmen. The problem is that if I kill all of them and I overrun, I'm not going to be able to hit that bruiser unit. Shannon and I talked about it, and we both agreed that that wouldn't be able to happen. What I would have to hope for is that I hit the tribesmen, I don't kill them all, and then at the angle that they're fleeing, I would pursue, and then that would take me into the flank of the bruisers. I'm looking at this now, and it actually looks like my ferals are in the flank of his tribesmen, but anyway, we were kind of playing with positioning, and that's just how it ended up, so. This is Orcs and Goblins turn 2. And, yeah, so much for me trying to stay out of combat with my center early on. My feral orcs charge the tribesmen. My Giant, my spider, my scrap wagon charge into the other chaffing tribesmen to take them out. Um, and then for the rest of movement, oh, my chariots, my wolf chariots, charge the flank of his merc vets. He can't take that in the flank, and he knows it, so he flees. I unfortunately have nothing else in the center that can push him off the board. What I was hoping is my feral orcs would kill the tribes and maybe overrun enough to hit the merc vets and kill them. But unfortunately, I send my National Wrecking Team through at a bad angle, and I take out some bruisers, but it ends up in a position where I can actually hit it with my feral orcs, which would be quite bad. I moved Twitch out of the goblin unit because those bruisers are coming around, and I'm just hoping I can do some fire magic and see what he does next turn. My trolls, I start to move up to get them in a good flanking position against his units. I was a little careless with their movement, though, and I think I put them a little too close to his frost mammoth. I don't care if his bombardiers charge me in the front. I should win that. And then he had moved his giant around my chariots. He's trying to go after the orcs with crossbows on the hill. He can see the rear of the trolls, but it's a long charge for him to get in. So that's how the board looks there. And that's how things are looking over here. I just moved my characters to get into position for the aftermath of my combats. Go into magic / shooting, and I try to concentrate as much firepower as I can on the Tusker Cav, because I know they're going to be countercharging my monsters. I only kill one of them off. I was hoping to kill at least two. Killing two off is, I think, enough that either my giant or my spider could handle that charge. Three, though, is a whole nother matter. It's just another D3 impact. It's another bunch of attacks. I think that'll be a little too much. So that's unfortunate there. And then I decide I really need to get after this bruiser unit in case the ferals can't get into them. So I send my Mad Gets through with the goblins. And I'm starting to do some work now because between them and the National Wrecking Team, he's got 8 bruisers left from original 12. So I've killed a third of the unit. So I'm getting there. The crossbows open up on the giant and do a couple wounds, which is nice. And then we go into combat. My feral orcs kill off the tribesmen. Unfortunately, I kill them completely. And I do have to overrun, but I roll poorly for my overrun, so I actually don't hit my National Wrecking Team. I only go like 3 or 4 inches forward. The giant and the spider and the scrap wagon kill the other tribesmen, not surprisingly. The scrap wagon overruns past his lines, which is great, and my giant and spider just turn to face. I took the spider off the base just because it's a very large model and he was in the ruins, and yeah, so you could just see the base where he's facing. Then his Ogre Khan's turn 3, and he's declaring a bunch of charges. So he charges one chariot, or he charges 2 chariots into the flank of the feral orcs. The problem is that the first chariot had to go through a Mad Get, and I think died. And, no, I'm sorry, he charges with both. One of them fails, one of them doesn't. He does go through the Mad Get, and he takes some wounds, but he's still alive. Then his bruisers charge into my goblins. I stand and shoot. He goes through another Mad Get, loses another bruiser, but yeah, he's in, and that's not going to be pretty. Before charging his bruisers, however, into the goblins, he charges into Twitch, which he didn't need an unreasonable charge to make Twitch, so I just said, screw it, I'll flee. I'll take my 1,000 points. So I'm happy with that, and he makes his redirect. The sad part was he also made all of his charges into the trolls. It was a long charge for the giant, he makes it. The bombardiers needed a 7, which is average, they make it. And then his frost mammoth also needed a 7, and he made it. So, that's bad. It's my own fault. Shouldn't have put him quite as close as I did, but I still wasn't expecting him to make all the charges, so I think we know how that will end up. His Tusker Cav charged into the giant, as I expected. So we go into combat, and as I predicted, my giant would die from 3 Tusker Cav. He is able to take out one of them, and they overrun into the flank of the spider. The trolls break, they run through my orcs, and they are at the very edge of the table. They're not off yet, actually. Just had nowhere to put them. And then the orcs pass their panic test. So, unfortunately, he does that combat first. The bombardiers, in their pursuit, are able to clip the feral orcs, which is very bad, and his giant pursues into the orcs with crossbows, I believe. The chariot does a bunch of impact hits, kills a bunch of orcs. In combat, however, I'm able to fight off and kill the chariot, but unfortunately, because his bombardiers are clipping, I'm still losing combat. And I break, and I run through and lose a bunch of them through DTs, running through the bruisers, and my command is all that's left. The bruisers beat up on the goblins, big bullies that they are, and my goblins flee. He decides to restrain pursuit and reform because he knows my general is sitting there. However, I have no intentions of charging that unit and getting stuck into a pillow fight with his general. His merc vets have rallied, and I'm going to go after them. Which I do. So Man Muncha charges into the merc vets. He, I think, thought about fleeing. The problem is that my scrap wagon is sitting behind them, and if he did, all I have to do is turn, roll about average, and I take out the unit, and he doesn't even swing. So he takes it like a man. The scrap wagon goes into the flank of his chariot that failed his charge. At this point, I'm just trying to get as many points as possible, so I throw the wolf chariots into the frost mammoth, thinking, hey, they killed one monster, maybe they can do it again. And the frost mammoth is not stubborn, so if I can just win on combat res alone, if I get a few wounds through, and he doesn't do as many wounds to me, I could break him and run him down. So that's what I'm expecting, or that's what I'm hoping, I should say. It's brawlers, just got to get points. I don't care what I lose, so got to take some risks. So this is after combat, and I don't win. I do 3 wounds, I think, but he does more to me. He must have done at least 5, and I broke, so that was sad. This was really disappointing, though. I got him down to 1 wound, and with, he doesn't have that many attacks, but with his attacks, even with distracting, he's able to kill my scrap wagon, which was just really disappointing. Over here, this went as I expected. He has a champion, so he challenged out. Man Muncha, well, just bashed his brains in, and he's stuck because he's steadfast, so that's that. Over here, the spider takes it on the chin. I only take 1 wound, and then the spider does his thing and is able to kill one of the Tusker Cav, and that guy's only got a wound or 2 left on him, so I think I should be able to polish off those points next round, which would be great. My feral orcs continue to flee. I only have 2 left. One of them dies in the ruins. Twitch rallied, though, on my turn, which was awesome. So that's points I'm keeping, and he can still cast some magic and throw some fire. The giant beats on my orcs. They do flee, but he doesn't catch them, and I'm not off the board yet, so chance to rally. So now the game's getting really quick. We're basically getting into movement and combat for the most part. I win this combat. My general single-handedly just beating these guys down. He can't get through my high toughness armor and ward save. He manages to stick, though. Spider kills off the last Tusker Cav. Good job, Spider, securing the right flank. And then this is how the board is looking. Now, I'm just bombarding those bruisers with pyromancy magic and skull splitter shotgun shells and shooting, and he's losing bruisers left and right. I'm just trying to get half points at least for that unit, if not maybe finish them off, if that's not too much to ask. My orcs rally, which is something, and then this is just continuing to shoot at them. I'm able to get them down to only 3 bruisers, so now I've got half points for the unit, which is great. And with one of my Git launchers, Flying Goblin takes out the Giant, which is even better. And my general finishes off the Merc Vets. Couldn't be happier about that. My spider tries to charge the frost mammoth, and I fail. I don't think I needed that high either. That would have been really, really nice. And his bruisers charge my catapult, they destroy it, and then they overrun into the flank, and, well, that's going to be at the end of the orcs with crossbows, and it is. And this is the last picture of the game. So, this was a really fun game. It got very bloody. Shannon definitely won the center. He was able to burst through my lines, but I won the flanks, and we ended up just having a few units kind of running around each other. And it ended up being a pretty close game. So I secured 3,013 points. He's secured 3,737. Mostly because I had most of my characters left alive, so that's a lot of my points. Bonus scenario objectives. There are 5 ways to get generic points every game. And he got all those except killing my general, so he got 800 points, but he did not get his mission because my general was still alive. I didn't get any extra points because all my scoring units were dead, and I couldn't kill his general, but I got my mission, which was to successfully flee with a unit, so I got 1,000 extra points, making it a 4,013 game to 4,537 points. So essentially, it was a draw. Not that it would really matter. It's only about a 500 point difference. We just take away whatever points we get from the game. Getting 4,000 points is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And I'll take it for game 1. Hey, I walked out of this with some points. And I'll see if I can build on my momentum from here. So going into MVPs, for Ogre Cons, I would say it's the Bruisers. They killed Pac-Man. They broke my center. They were able to take out the goblins and then my catapults and eventually my orcs with crossbows. And they did retain at least half their points and kept his general protected. For me, I would say it's my general Man Muncha. He only killed 1 unit, but that unit was a ton of points. And I mean, to be able to kill Merc Vets unaided, that's pretty impressive. I have ogres, I know how good Merc Vets are, and I know how expensive they are, so that was a huge swing for me. And because he stayed alive, it denied my opponent just a crazy amount of points. So I'll give the MVP to him. I'll quickly go over this segment based on what I learned from this game. Patience in the movement phase. It's something that I really need to learn. I just have so much fun getting into these games, and then I get excited when I see an opportunity, and I've got to slow myself down. Like with Pac-Man, I think that would have been a good move if I had paid more attention to getting extra units that could countercharge if you wanted to charge him. I just didn't do that well enough. I really should have kept him back, though, an extra turn. And then I think the biggest mistake was with the trolls. I should have kept them a little farther away from his frost mammoth. I could have had them in the same position, just didn't move them quite as much. So I've got to remember that. Playing the flanks. So I think when you kind of line up against your opponent's units and you just march towards each other, it can get kind of dicey because you're in a Mexican standoff and it becomes a game of who's going to flinch first, right? Or who's going to roll better charge distances, you or your opponent. And that's not a very tactical game. It's not going to win your games consistently. You got to be able to play the flanks and win the flanks. And I think because I was able to do that this game, it ended up being a very close game. If I didn't win those flanks, I would have been routed utterly. I mean, Shannon played a really good game. He broke my center very early on, was able to get off charges and get into combat quickly. I needed my center to hold a little longer than it did, and I just pushed up a Pac-Man way too early. Bombardiers. I'm very impressed with this unit. They didn't really do anything with shooting, but they're a double threat. They're also a combat unit, and they did that in this game, and played a huge role in being able to take out my feral orcs, because that chariot, I was able to actually kill it off. And if the bombardiers weren't in there, I just would have reformed and been able to charge on my turn. I should say combat pivot and then charge on my turn into anything I wanted. So the bombardiers were also a really big unit of his. So that's just some food for thought. That's it for this round. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. It could be about the video, things that you liked, didn't like, would like to see in it, any tactics, anything like that. It's greatly appreciated. And I look forward to posting up the next video for you guys. So stay tuned. I'll see you later.